Success!
Oh, hi. Glad you're here. I'm glad to be with you. So, skip any introductions, no introductions necessary. All introductions are in part 1, 1983. So, here we are, 1984. I've got four, hey, how appropriate, 1984, four. I've got four movies to discuss. Briefly, for the most part. He says, and then 20 minutes later, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Some videos maybe 5 minutes, some videos maybe 25. I'm winging it. I'm winging it. I'm still young, but I'm going to be old in a few months. You know what I mean? 1984. In March of 1984, a movie was released called This Is Spinal Tap. I was just talking to my friend about their botched spinal tap when they had their baby. Anyway, a mostly improvised Christopher Guest film. Well, I don't think that was... I think this one was directed by Rob Reiner. But Christopher Guest of Spinal Tap went on to make many, many, many improvised, hilarious, fantastic films. Like Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman. Fantastic films. But the reason I must... these are I have three honorable mentions. The reason this is an honorable mention is when I was very little, when I was a kid, my family had this rule for Christmas. And for Christmas, and it's crazy, I've seen like my son's mother and her family, they'd say, okay, go ahead, and then everybody would just open all of their presents at the same time. Like, that's insane. Do you do that? Does your family do that? I think that's crazy. If people do that, like just free reign, everybody open their presents, that's insane. The way my family did it is everyone took a turn so that we could all enjoy together as a family. Their enjoyment of their present, the person who got the present for them's enjoyment of them opening the present, us enjoying seeing what they got, yada, yada, yada. I assumed when I was a kid that that's how everyone did it until, I went over for Christmas one time at my son's mother's family's house, and they just all went nuts, and I was like, nobody's enjoying their presents, A, and B, no one's getting to enjoy anyone open their presents. Like, that's the point of opening a present. You get to see someone open a present. One time I gave someone a present, and I was like, okay, and then we were meeting for lunch. I was like, okay, this is your present. And then we got to the restaurant, and they were like, oh, thank you. And I was like, what? And I opened it in the car. No. When someone gives you a present, you're supposed to open it in front of them. Oh, I was so mad. Anywho. So my family did it like that. We would take turns opening presents. They would always have the youngest go first, but personally, I switched it up as soon as I could and convinced everyone. Oldest should always go first. Should go oldest to youngest. I get what they were trying to do. The kids want to open their presents, so let them go first. But, logically speaking, theoretically, the oldest will be the first to die. So since you're closest to death, you should go first in case you keel over at any moment. Theoretically speaking. It just made sense to me logically. Anywho. But our rule was, since we had this nice tradition of all enjoying each other opening our gifts. Anywho. See, I'm rambling. We're already taking too long. The rule was, before anyone opened any presents on Christmas morning, everyone in the family had to be awake, have had breakfast, and have showered. Everyone had to be ready for the day, eaten. And, there's no, I'm up, I'm going to open this present. Nope. Oh, everybody's up, let's open presents. Nope, everybody's got to eat their breakfast. Okay, well, let's make sure nobody stinks. Stuff like that. So, obviously me being the youngest, I'm the youngest of three boys. So excited for Christmas, I would always be the first up and waiting for everyone else to finish their deal. I'd get up, I'd eat breakfast real quick, I'd shower, whatever, I'd be like, I'm ready to go. Okay, well, you still got to wait for everybody else to wake up. And I'm like, really? Why is nobody else excited about that? Anyway. My father always being the one to wake up, whether it be 4, 5, 6 in the morning. He's an early bird. So it was always me and my father waiting for everyone else. I guess would have been the short way to say all of that. Um, there was one Christmas in particular where, as I'm waiting, I'm forced to just hang out. Well, not for you. I had to wait for everyone else. My father was already watching television, and he had stumbled across a movie, so he was watching a movie. And because I was waiting, I was watching what he was watching. And it was This Is Spinal Tap. And it stuck with me like a core memory. I must have been, I don't know, 10, 11 maybe, 12, who knows, somewhere around there. And he was watching This Is Spinal Tap. And I could not comprehend what I was seeing, my little preteen mind. I just know that I was, because I thought, whatever he's watching, I'm stuck here. I thought it would be boring or whatever, and I was very captivated. I was very captivated by this film. I knew even then, like, this is something special. I don't understand it. I don't get half the jokes. I'm pretty sure that's Paul Schaefer from the Letterman Show. Yada yada yada. It stuck with me, and then years later, of course, I would rewatch that movie, and I love This Is Spinal Tap. I love Spinal Tap. I love Christopher Guest. I thought they were supposed to be making like a sequel that's supposed to come out soon. I haven't heard anything about it recently. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, so that stuck with me. This Is Spinal Tap was a big Christmas core memory, and now it's something that I try to, oh, son, you gotta eat breakfast before you can open your presents. And then I'll put on a movie that he's stuck watching. I actually did it last Christmas a couple of months ago. And I put on Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. See previous video. I had to skip a couple of parts, but for the most part, he had the same experience I did that one Christmas. He's like, what the heck is this? I don't understand it, but it's very captivating, it's very interesting, and I'm sure when he's older, he'll revisit it and be like, oh, and then he'll remember that Christmas. Anyway, so that's why This Is Spinal Tap needs an honorable mention, because I have this core memory of a Christmas where my father was watching it, so I was forced to watch it, and it stuck with me. Also, 1984, in July, was released the film The Never Ending Story. Okay. This would have been about just over a month after my first birthday. I remember as a child later, enjoying said film. But the reason I wanted to mention it is classic film. Love that movie. Honestly, I really like the second one too. The third one's really weird, Jack Black. But the second one's really weird. But the second one I really like as well, even though it's really different. The first one obviously being the best and the most classic and revered and loved. So I love The Never Ending Story, but I had these fleeting memories as a young one about some kind of snail, that can't be right. Some kind of naked statues, that can't be right. I would have these fleeting memories of the movie until I entered my teenage years and finally sat down and watched it in its entirety and was like, oh wow, this is a crazy movie. But I do remember at a very young age, like toddler age, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, the wolf that I always assumed at that age was the nothing. I didn't know what the nothing was yet. That it was the cloud that makes everything disappear, pretty much. I thought the wolf he interacts with in the end was the nothing. But they had this animatronic wolf head in the cave. And it scared the living crap out of me. That wolf was scary to me. And I think specifically because it was this animatronic and his lips moved really weird and he talked and he was threatening and he had a threatening voice. That wolf really creeped me out. The wolf terrified me. The giant turtle, creeped me the heck out because they would have this one close-up shot of his face, because he did a lot of sneezing. And they had this close-up shot of his face. And I was like, oh my god, creepy turtle. And then, of course, the, spoiler alert, horse dying in the quicksand was pretty brutal for a kid. It's a hardcore movie, especially for a young one. Great movie, though. Never-ending story. So I wanted to mention that. Last in the honorable mentions, in November of 1984, aired, not released, I believe it was released in theaters overseas, but in America, where I grew up, not where I was born, in America, released on ABC television one night was the Ewok Adventure, titled Caravan of Courage overseas. So now it's kind of both the Ewok Adventure, Caravan of Courage. That's the first one. The second one is Battle for Endor. But the first one was Ewok Adventure. Growing up as kids, I think we had like a VHS recording or something of it. We watched it a lot. We loved it. The big spider, the adventure, the mirror lake where he got trapped underneath, which inspired a scene in The Green Knight, believe it or not. Good commentary. Great movie. Great. The way they shot the big giant at the end, the parents getting kidnapped, Wicket, you got the other Ewoks. It's this great adventure, great film, especially for a kid. All kinds of ensuing fun. But it sticks out with me because specifically my father. So when that came out, I was 1, which means my older brother was 5, and my oldest brother was 7. So it makes sense that that left an impression on all of them, especially my father, because my father clearly watched it with the 3 of us. You got the 1-year-old, you got the 5-year-old, and then the 7-year-old. But something stuck with my dad. And growing up, he would always... I didn't know what it was from at the time. It wasn't until I was a little bit older that I became more familiar with the movie. And went, oh my gosh, that's something my son deals with on a regular basis every time we watch a movie together. Oh, that's why you always say that, Dad. But that was my first experience with my father. Oh, that's why you always say that, Dad. He used to always, anytime we were playing, and there would be ships or something, because my Lego, my OG, like Blacktron 2 Lego sets, always be spaceships. When my dad would play, he would always go, Star Cruiser crash! Star Cruiser crash! Star Cruiser crash! I'm like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? Why does the Star Cruiser always have to crash, and why do you call it a Star Cruiser? It's because it's from the Ewok Adventure. That's what Wicket says. When the kids try to explain to him that our spaceship crashed on your planet. And then Wicket has his little, like, horse wooden figurine. And he goes, oh, Star Cruiser crash. Star Cruiser crash. So, big impact on my life. And finally, the movie that is the most influential in my life from 1984 is Ghostbusters, without a doubt. Many, many reasons. I'll try to break it down briefly. Love that movie. One of the greatest comedies of all time. Grew up loving that movie. Grew up rewatching that movie. I quote that movie so many times, constantly. Quoting it all the time. So many lines. So many lines. Again, we'd be here for 10 minutes if I just went over the lines that I quote every day. As I'm literally thinking of the examples I should give. Nope. If it's in Ghostbusters, I quote it on a regular basis. I remember the 30th anniversary back in 2014. My brothers and I, the 3 of us together, saw it in theater for the re-release for the first time. And we had seen the movie a billion times. But it was like seeing it for the first time. Sometimes you see a movie on the big screen for the first time, and it's like seeing it for the first time. Another movie comes to mind, Alien. When I saw that in theater, I was like, I've never really seen this. And mainly, it's a lot of the sound design. There was things I would notice in Ghostbusters that I'd never noticed before, whether it be a sight gag or... Because you have a bigger screen. Go figure. Sound stuff that I'd never noticed before. Like, it was a great experience, my brothers and I. We had some lady trying to con us into giving her money in the parking lot before the movie started, and we were pretty... So we were like, no, we're trying to enjoy the movie. Anyway. But on top of all of that, well, there was one Halloween where my oldest brother, my best friend Adam at the time, and myself dressed up in full Halloween gear as Ghostbusters. Jumpsuits and inflatable proton packs is what the costume came with. But then I decked us out. We got elbow pads, we got knee pads, We got big belts. We got walkie-talkies. Like, I made the boots. I made sure our costumes were like a heck of a lot better than your standard Spirit Halloween costumes. That, again, came with a jumpsuit and an inflatable proton pack. But I added all the accessories to make us full on. I even got myself night vision goggles because I was Ray, the heart of the Ghostbusters. My friend Adam, who was like a nerdy nerd at the time, not like nerd like we're nerds now. Well, I am. I don't mean to speak for you. But like a, actually, kind of, I'm smart and bug-eyed kind of nerd. So he was Egon. And then my oldest brother, Mark, being the mouth and the ladies' man, was, of course, Peter Venkman. But that Halloween, it's not like we were trick-or-treating. We were, I don't know, in our 18, 19, 20 years old, somewhere around there. Well, as far as me and my best friend Adam. My brother's obviously older than me. You can do the math from earlier. You can figure that out. But we ran around town just dressed as Ghostbusters. And let me tell you, the attention we got that night. And we were just running around. We went into a Denny's. Hey, anybody seen a ghost? And one of us would run into the back, come back up to the front, while the others were just standing there waiting while everybody's staring at us. And nope, no ghosts here. All right, we're good. We're good here, folks. Ran into a hotel next door. Anybody seen a ghost? No, I don't think. All right. We were just pretending we were Ghostbusters, checking the place out. But everybody loved it. And this was Halloween night. Everybody loved it. They were like, oh my gosh, it's the Ghostbusters. And we're running down the street, just like in the montage from the movie. And people were honking as they drove by. It's the Ghostbusters. Hey, Ghostbusters. Like, that's the beauty of Halloween. They were treating us like we were the Ghostbusters. One of the greatest nights of my life, I swear. Oh, so much fun. But on top of all that, as a wee little kid, I mentioned there's the 2 movies that scared the pants off me, but there's a handful of movies that had scenes that scared the pants off me. 2 things with Ghostbusters. When I was really little, I loved the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and never was able to comprehend that he was a bad guy. I saw the big smile and thought, oh, look, giant, lovable, huggable, plushie. Great. And the next thing I know, his face is on fire as he frowns and explodes. I have a specific vivid memory, like it's yesterday, of seeing that for the first time and bawling my eyes out uncontrollably, unconsolably, crying for hours on end. And I remember both my brothers and both my parents trying their best to explain to me, number 1, he's a bad guy. Number 2, it's okay, it's just a movie. And number 3, well, he's not, that was supposed to happen, like, that's a good thing that happened. And like they were trying to console me and explain to me there's nothing to be upset about. But I was like, no, they blew up that big, happy, fluffy guy, puffy guy. And, yeah. Ironically enough, all these years later, my son fell in love with Ghostbusters because of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and that's always been his favorite part. He's not as much of a fan of the second one. I love the second one just as much. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Doesn't get enough credit. But my son doesn't like the second one as much because it doesn't have the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Statue of Liberty is not a good enough substitute for him. So yeah, I remember that. And then 2, that one scene was one of 2 scenes at the time when I was very little. I mean, there was a couple of movies, and there's a couple other references that scared me. But there was 2 scenes from movies where I had to leave the room. Like, I want to watch this movie, I'm enjoying this movie. Oh, here comes that part. And I would try to, play it off. I gotta go use the bathroom. But my brothers figured it out. Oh, he's always going to the bathroom at this part. The other movie was Aliens, the second one. With the chest burster, when they find the survivors of the colony, and then they find the lady. I don't have a problem with the chest burster scene from the first Alien. It was the second Aliens, because it's all dark and she's all slimy, and freaking out with the acting, and then Sigourney Weaver's like, oh. Ironically enough, both scenes involved Sigourney Weaver. Curious. So that I was always have to leave the room. But in Ghostbusters, when Dana gets home, sits on the couch, and the arms come out of the chair. I think it's like plus one grabs her by the mouth, and like a finger gets in her mouth for a second, and then the chair goes into this monster thing, animatronic thing. Whew, I could not handle that as a young child with the arms coming out of that chair like they were creepy, scary, realistic demon arms. Nope. Skip that part. So yeah. Overall, Ghostbusters had a huge impact on my life to this day. Big Ghostbusters fan all around. I love all of the films, including the female-led third one, Ghostbusters Answer the Call. Don't get me started. Great movie. Anywho, so that's why Ghostbusters, the OG, that came out, mind you, exactly 7 days, exactly 1 week before my first birthday. And is the number one most influential film of my life from 1984. All right then. Well, I'll maybe see you next time. Thanks for stopping by. Okie dokie.